This is a series about the Colossus of Clout, Babe Ruth. And what I do in this series is I look at every single season of the Babe and try to determine what awards he would have won along the way. Thus far, I've decided that he would have won Rookie of the Year in 1915, he would have narrowly won the Cy Young Award in 1916, and he was an emerging two-way player in 1918 and would have won the Most Valuable Player Award. In this video, we look at the 1918 World Series. Ruth and his Red Sox found themselves back in the Fall Classic for the third time in 4 years. They had won the World Series in 1915, 1916, and they would win this one too. But this World Series would be very different, and actually, it was one of the stranger events in the history of baseball. Due to World War I and the draft, rosters had been depleted throughout the season. The government asked for baseball to end the season on Labor Day, and the Fall Classic took place between September 5th and 11th, becoming a late summer event. It was anything but a classic. The war not only affected rosters, but it also resulted in poor attendance for the series. To top that off, there was disagreement as to the percentage that the players would receive from the gate, and they actually threatened to strike right in the middle of the series. Furthermore, this just wasn't an exciting series. The Red Sox won this series despite having a team batting average of 186, the lowest for a winning team in World Series history. The Cubs didn't do much better, they only hit .210. Neither team hit a home run, and in the end, the Cubs outscored the Red Sox by a whopping total of 10-9 in 6 games. Yeah, this wasn't a very exciting series. One of the theories being floated today as to why this might have been a lackluster series is because the Cubs might have actually thrown this series. This was the year before the Black Sox scandal. John Thorne, a historian for Major League Baseball, says it seems more likely that there would be a fix than that there was not a fix. And he adds that at the time, the connection between baseball players and gamblers was very strong. In fact, Eddie Cicotte, one of the pitchers infamously known for the Black Sox scandal, said in a 1920 deposition that his 1919 teammates talked about how one or several of the Cubs were offered $10,000 to fix the 1918 World Series. In the book, The Original Curse, the author also points to several misplays and mental lapses that occurred during the World Series, which points to a fix. He also talks about how World War I ruined baseball's economy, cutting the players' pay in half, and the 1919 season had been unofficially canceled, and most players expected to be drafted when the series ended in 1918. Well, that's the context for the series, but let's move on and talk about the Babe. This card's pretty cool because it speaks to Ruth's success in both the 1916 and 18 World Series. You'll notice over on the right that it mentions his scoreless streak of 29 2/3 innings that became a World Series record that stood until the 1960s when after 43 years, Whitey Ford finally toppled the record. In Game 2 of the 1916 World Series, Ruth tossed a 14-inning gem where he only gave up a solo run in the first inning, and he continued that success here in 1918. In typical Ruthian fashion, he went out in Game 1 and promptly threw a 6-hit shutout. It was the first shutout in a World Series opener in 13 years. Game 4 turned out to be a very interesting event for the Babe. The day before, Ruth and teammate Walt Kinney were doing a little roughhousing on the train ride from Chicago, and Ruth injured one of the fingers on his pitching hand. It was noticeable that Ruth had yellow iodine stains on his left hand, and from the first inning, it was really clear to onlookers that his curveball just wasn't breaking like it normally did. He began losing control in the 6th inning as the iodine on his finger began rubbing off on the ball, and the ball was clearly sailing. In the end, he ended up walking 6 batters, but he turned in a gutsy performance and pitched 7 1/3 innings of shutout ball before finally getting touched for 2 runs in the 8th inning. But while Ruth surrendered 2 runs, he also drove in 2 runs of his own by slugging a triple in the 4th inning. As we try to figure out who would have been the MVP of the 1918 World Series, there are only 3 people to consider: Ruth, Carl Mays, and George Whiteman. Mays was a submariner who finished his career with 207 wins, and he posted a 2.92 ERA. He was a solid pitcher. Ruth won games 1 and 4, and Mays won games 3 and 6. Ruth opened the series with a shutout, and Mays closed the series with a dominating performance. But when you consider that Ruth pitched 16 1/3 innings of shutout ball before giving up 2 runs, and that he was the only Red Sox player to even drive in 2 runs in the series, I guess I'd have to give a slight edge to Ruth, but it really doesn't matter because the MVP of the series was George Whiteman. Now you're probably wondering, how in the world would Whiteman win an MVP when he only hit 250 and he didn't even really hit for any power, and he only had 1 RBI? Because the Sox wanted to have a well-rested Ruth toying the rubber in this series, Whiteman played left field and hit cleanup during every game. In Game 1, Whiteman had 2 hits and he made a run-saving catch in the 6th inning. This would turn out to be the first of 4 great catches that he made throughout the series. In Game 2, he had a triple and an RBI. In Game 3, he had another hit, but his most important contribution was in the field. With the man on second, he robbed Dale Pasco to an extra base hit. Game 4 wasn't quite as memorable, but he did walk and score on Ruth's triple in the 4th inning. In Game 5, he walked and scored a run, but once again, in the field is where he really shined. With runners in second and third, once again he robbed Dale Pasco. He made a shoestring catch and doubled the runner off second base. And in Game 6, which turned out to be the series clincher, in the 8th inning, he made another great shoestring catch that turned into a somersault. Unfortunately, he hurt his neck, and Ruth had to come in and replace him in left field. But Whiteman left to a thundering ovation, and it turned out to be his final appearance in Major League Baseball. Afterwards, the Washington Post said that Whiteman was the hero of Game 6, and they added that he won the 1918 World Baseball Championship for the Red Sox. If an MVP award had been given out, Whiteman would have definitely taken it. We need to remember that this World Series wasn't noted for its offense, and Whiteman's batting average, hits, and runs scored all tied for the team lead. And writer Bill Nolan said this: "One way or another, Whiteman was involved in the rallies that brought in 8 of the Red Sox 9 runs. He helped lead the Red Sox to their 5th championship, and it would be their last for 86 years until they broke the curse of the Bambino in 2004. Well, there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and do me a favor by hitting that like button and by subscribing to my channel. Thanks so much.